What does one do with a PhD in creative writing? Is
Teach.
it? I mean, okay. So MFA isn't enough to do that
no,
anymore.
it is enough. It is enough. But pursuing a PhD kind of makes it a foolproof plan.
Okay.
Because even though an MFA is a terminal degree per se,
Yeah.
Some colleges still don't quite want to accept it. If I get a PhD, it's a lot more definite that that's my field, that's what I want to do. And that is what I want to do. Is like I almost want to be a teacher more so than I want to be a writer.
Okay.
I mean, I am a writer. There's once you are that, there's kind of no stopping it. You just write. That's what you do. But something that I didn't expect to be very satisfying, which is teaching a class, for me has been possibly one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had.
So the people who come and take your class are they?
They're freshmen mostly.
Okay, so they're early on, and is it creative writing that you're teaching?
This is introduction to creative writing.
How are they as writers?
Oftentimes they're beginners.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to have a little bit of patience and re-explain some of those basic things that go into writing. But a lot of times they also surprise me. They'll either tackle very difficult subjects in either poetry or fiction. Last semester I had a freshman girl write about her cancer experiences.
Wow, really?
And it made for very powerful work. And I'm not saying that because like, ooh, cancer, immediately emotional, but because she cranked out some amazing poetry just from the pain of that, I guess.
When you talk about the beginners, is it technique that distinguishes a beginner from an advanced writer? How would you characterize that?
Well, it's just a level of craft. Technique, I guess, is a good word for it as well. There are certain craft-related techniques that go into each story. We're not quite to the poetry yet in this semester, but like characterization, setting, plot, conflict, things like that. That once in a while I'll get a student or a few students that like just aren't quite getting it, that don't quite understand why a setting is important, why they should use concrete sensory details to flesh out their characters, why they should have a sense of struggle in a story, a sense of conflict between something. And that sometimes is a difficult thing to explain because it's hard to make them. It's one thing to tell them you need conflict, but it's one thing to have them understand that in here, because that comes from a long experience of writing and what makes a good story and why readers would choose to stay with a story. That's about it.
And your sense is you feel like you can carry this over to the students that you're teaching, that they're getting it, that they're...
I hope so.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Is there much of a sense of collegiality among your cohort of fellow students, or do you kind of just show up and pass by each other?
It's a little cliquey. And I'm being very candid in that answer because I'm probably going to send out an email to all of them and say, hey, I'm on this blog, come check out this interview.
Oh, good. Okay.
And then some of them will be like, well, what the hell do you mean? There's a sense, like there's a clickiness that I haven't felt since high school, honestly.
Really? Huh.
That all of college was basically like everyone's all good and, everybody has a value in some way. And once I got here, I was actually kind of shocked how people split off into a couple different groups and just don't connect across those groups as much.
And is it based on the kind of writing that they do, the kind of people that they are? I just wonder why this would happen, I wonder.
I don't know what it's based on. I mean, I guess it's based a lot in how social some people are and how antisocial other people are.
Yeah.
it's like that's about as close as I can. It's based in the same exact things that it was in high school. Yeah, like some people are introverts and aren't part of the clique, and some people are extroverts and don't want the introverts in their clique.
Yeah, I see. That's interesting. Do people read each other's writings?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Certainly. Well, I mean, part of the program is we have to.
Oh, yeah.
The workshop classes, we just sit around and talk about each other's work, basically.
Uh-huh.
So on that level, yeah. And within the little cliques, people read each other's work. But it's like, I wouldn't go up to people not in my little clique and be like, hey, here's my thesis.
I see. Right.
Would you
Sure.
read it for me?
Sure. Yeah.
Because, well, number one, I wouldn't really expect much effort on that part, and number two, I don't know how much I'd respect the answers that I got.
Uh-huh.
Because, I mean, when you're a writer and you're in a workshop class, it's like an open mic. Some comments will be very good, some comments will be mediocre, and some comments will be worth nothing.
Yeah.
And if it's somebody that I don't necessarily like in my program anyway, that I don't necessarily value their literary opinion as much, and then for me to ask them what they think about my work wouldn't give me any benefit, because whatever they think, I'd just ignore it anyway.
It's interesting because you think about the clique being based on social characteristics, but it probably does have something to do with literary taste and style.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I suppose those, one's personality comes through.
Affects their literary style as well, yeah.
So the open mic, I was at this open mic thing, and I'd asked you, have you ever heard of this thing? You said, yeah, well, you've kind of participated with the organizer of it and so on, but that you don't read there very often.
Not anymore. I used to. I used to read just about every week there.
Really?
Yeah. When it first started, about 3 years ago, when I first moved here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to read there quite often. And with a few people out of that open mic, out of that original open mic, like the MC that was there this past Thursday that you saw, and the girl who usually runs it, Amy, and the guy who originally ran it, Anthony, and my other friend, Sam, we actually did a poetry show at the Dairy Center 2 years ago.
Oh, good.
And that was a lot of fun.
And so the people that you were doing this with, did you meet them at this open mic?
Yeah, well, when I came here, I knew nobody when I came
Yes.
here. I was just by myself, and so
Right.
I was like, what am I going to do with my time?
Yeah.
Oh, there's an open mic on Thursdays or Wednesdays, as it was
It's
back
changed,
then.
yeah. Are there like regulars that show up all the time? Or?
There are some regulars. The regulars don't necessarily put forth the best work often. Well, I mean, it comes with being a regular at a bunch of open mics,
I see.
which I feel that if you're a regular at a bunch of open mics, you're not doing something right. Or you're
How
doing
so?
something wrong, because, obviously you're not, even though you're getting as much exposure as you possibly can, nobody's paying attention. I often feel that way about the self-publishing industry as well, where it's more of a vanity thing. Like you're up there because you like hearing the sound of your own voice in front of people, but it's not. It doesn't make for the best literature.
It's a different feel to listen to somebody read something versus to having it in front of you.
Well, this is true as well. I often have insecurities about my own writing where I feel that I'm a better reader than I am writer. Because whatever I'm reading, I can sell it to an audience.
Really?
I don't know. I read well, but that comes from having a lot of practice. It comes from when I was a regular at this open mic, where all of my stuff was well practiced, and I could gauge the audience's response. I can get rid of those awkward spots, and really kind of make my writing better through listening to people respond to my work.
Yes.
But it also makes my reading better. So I don't know which part is really getting better, my reading or my writing.